Okay, so today is normally my whatever Wednesday format where I just play some random thing, but I thought since I went through all the trouble yesterday with setting this whole thing up with the webcam and the real board, I figured I'd continue it again today. But the main difference is going to be yesterday I was trying to test out the Lichess special feature for this, which is basically like, okay, we get to, you move the pieces on the board in real life with the webcam, and then it'll automatically make the move on the site. So that worked pretty well is my review of it. The only problem is that, I mean, you obviously still have to move your opponent's pieces, but you don't have to make the move on the site. So today I'm going to do it a little differently. What else didn't work well with that? I guess just the fact that you're able to, when you show the board, it forces you to obviously only show the board in the form that it wants you to. So like I couldn't show it on OBS while I'm using that feature at the same time, or you'd need like a separate webcam or some other special feature that I didn't have. But like this is the most scuffed setup ever. Paper, board, plastic fucking pieces, all these kind of stupid things. And yeah, that'll be my joke on Ding Liren the whole time, like with the whole heavy lies the crown. It's not really, it's a high standard, obviously, but like every world champion has like some sort of psychological element that he obviously doesn't have, right? That's why they win so many times over, too. Anand or obviously Magnus. Like, it's not, like, that's two things we have in common, that we're both choke artists and that we're both fucking paper champions playing on a plastic board. But no, the point is that obviously it's a high standard that you have to accept. It's not just like, oh, it's easy for anybody to say that, but that's part of the thing you appreciate about someone like Magnus. It's not just that he's the best chess player in the world, it's that he's very mentally tough, that you have to be to deal with all these, all the pressure, all the tough positions. He didn't just like win one championship and fall off because the pressure was too much or something like that. So that's what you like to see as a consistency. Even Bobby Fischer, you could point that like it's for a different reason than just simply the pressure of it, but still, right? Maintaining that level of consistency is important in that way. So I think that's a fair criticism, even if, again, it's a high level, heavy lies the crown, with great power comes great responsibility, whatever you want to say. And then the other point is basically that, hey, Nightmare, how's it going? Yeah, this is a rare occasion when I play chess 2 days in a row, or at least when I stream chess 2 days in a row. So we're going to be trying it today with just a manual webcam without that feature, because that was the one bad thing with it that I couldn't find a fix for, which was it would show like these big blocky things over the pieces, like a big square with the fucking like a letter representing the piece and the number, so you can't really see the pieces very well that way. Not that this 4 FPS webcam is exactly the best solution for that either, but whatever, this will do, and it barely matters when you're playing a turn-based game. And this almost opens up the possibility, if I had more time today, I actually was going to try to do that. I would play a couple of games and then I wanted to try something else on the webcam, but maybe I'll save that for next week. Like I'll show off my Kindle Scribe thing or something I was talking about. I'll buy a fucking Rubik's Cube and do that. Like it honestly does kind of is a fun gimmick. Like there are certain things you can do using this. I'm trying to think what else would be fun. Those are the 3 ideas I have, like a pack opening of some kind. Not that I really play card games in real life, but because I'm such a good big card game fan, showing off some piece of technology or like doing an unboxing type of shit, ASMR unboxing, and then obviously just something that you wouldn't really be able to show on screen, and then obviously the capability of like some other kind of like hands-on game, like Rubik's Cube type of shit. I don't know. But whatever, we'll save that. Maybe we'll do it next Wednesday if I have time. Or I guess I could even do it Saturday, as weird as that would seem, because I don't really know what I'm going to do Saturday. Those are both the kind of the flex days where I kind of do random things. The main distinction is that Saturday is usually meant to be something that I've never played before. Wednesday could obviously be something like this, where it's just random. It could be anything, period. Genshin Impact, which again, I had played like one time before, but that still counts. But no, we're going to play classical because that's almost what this feels suited for. I don't think I could even handle playing it in rapid. Last time I just played against the bots the whole time, but I don't mind playing viewers in sort of unrated games, and I don't mind playing classical games. But the whole thing is the trouble of moving the pieces. So the difference is now I have to move my piece and their piece, and I also have to move it on the website. So the only difference is that I wouldn't have had to move it on the website. But So we'll play classical. Again, if you're going to go through the trouble of moving the pieces and do all this, it feels suited because, again, I can barely handle not getting flagged, or every game is coming down to time in a 10-minute format anyway, right? So I'm always very slow as it is. So I can't handle dealing with that. Plus I'm doing commentary. Plus I'm, distracted by other stuff. Not that I use that as an excuse entirely, but just the 30-minute format is suited for it. And this would be the first time really playing classical in a super long time. Right, I deliberately sort of took a break because I sort of do these. It's hard to explain. It's like a format within a format. So I do a permadeath format on chess.com. So like I did the first one coming back to streaming, I said, okay, I have to get to 1,000 rating, which I somehow got pushed down because I was getting farmed by viewers. So I failed to do that. Then I came to Le Chess as sort of my exodus. So I have to wait 6 months before I go back and reopen the account. But then I added a second condition to it too. In order to reopen the account, I have to get to 1600 in classical, which I did, and then I went back and said, okay, the next challenge is I have to get to 1200 rating, and then I failed to do that. So now I have to delete it, wait another 6 months. But then the next time I said, okay, now I have to get to 1700 before I open it, and I did that. And then I reopened it again, and I said, okay, now I have to get to 1500, and then I deleted it. Right, and then now I'm saying I have to get to 2000 in both classical and rapid. But normally I would exclude rapid from it and I wouldn't care about it. But now that's going to be a much higher standard. That's going to take a lot longer period of time. And so it's a little bit dangerous because I'm actually going to play a ranked fucking classical game in doing this. And if I fall, this is the one thing that does have a permadeath condition on this site. If I fall below 1600 classical, I actually have to delete my account here, and then who knows where we're going to go. So that can't happen. And we fell all the way down to 1640. And one of those games was even almost shouldn't count because it was against Simply, who's a 2000 rated player who obviously, that was just a rated game by pure incidence. Like, he's actually he's a viewer, friend, whatever, but like it wasn't like a random ranked game, so it almost shouldn't have been rated. And I lost a proportional amount that I would lose because he's 2000, but he only plays rapid, so he was only like 1500, which that's happened to me a lot. Like if you look at my highest beaten opponents, I've beaten 2000 players multiple times, but it doesn't show up because either it's not a ranked game, or like when it shows highest rated opponent, or the real reason is that there'll be 2000 in rapid and they played like thousands of games there, so it's not provisional or anything, so they're legitimately 2000, but then they're not in classical. It could be their first classical game, or they're just a little bit lower. And so the point is I couldn't beat that 2000 in a 10-minute game, more than likely, if nothing else, just because of time. But then all of a sudden I beat them in classical. So I can be kind of a dangerous, scary player, at least if I apply myself in a classical context. And I love when people get mad about that too. Like, well, you only did so well because of course you had more time, but the opponent has more time too. So it's not like, that should help them as well. I feel like you were yapping because you were scared of me. Well, we could play one if you want, but we would have to do a classical game. Because, yeah, if I'm going to go through the trouble of doing this, it doesn't make sense otherwise. I'll literally flag on, like, the first 5 moves just trying to move this shit around. And let me see. Yeah, I won't do a rated one that way either. But, no, we fell pretty low, so that's almost dangerous to do. And what else? Yeah, this is kind of hard to measure because I shouldn't have fallen that low anyway, and now it's a double-edged sword because we get both the provisional boost, where if we win a game on ranked, which won't be the first one I play anyway, but we'll gain a bit more, but we'll also lose a bit more. So if I lose like 2 or 3 in a row, which shouldn't happen, of course, then I could really get in trouble. But that's always what I've said is the best, most instructive format, is the 30-minute thing. Also, I'll lose with 25 minutes left on the clock because I'm not always the most patient. But it sets sort of the right example, especially in the early going of what you're trying to do with respect to... it sets the right standard because, like, okay, you're trying to learn a game, right? This is what I always say, why I praise classical, right, is that... And it's also, like, part of the reason why I'm doing this is because... No, let's actually do it in 30 minutes. Now, hang on a minute. That way it at least has, like, a fixed thing to it. Correspondence becomes silly because then, yeah, this is almost what it's set up for, too. I'll just leave the chessboard set up in my house and I'll always be looking at it, and, like, I'll make 1 move per day, and then my opponent makes a move and I transpose it. Whatever. Like, you're playing, like, a week-long, month-long game of chess. But no, the other point is, okay, why do I like classical so much? Because it's like you're playing a game for the first time and you're trying to figure it out and learn it and study it. So why would you want to speed run a game that you're playing for the first time, which effectively feels like what Blitz and Bullet and even to an extent Rapid is? Because like it doesn't matter how fast you are, you just want to play it, take your time with it, and then at that point, and 25 plus 3. I mean, I guess I can't argue with that, but okay, it is casual. And so I'll show it here too, which I think, unfortunately, the only thing you won't be able to see is the time. Like, I don't know exactly how to do this. Like, okay, we'll make the first move. And here's also the rule to prevent us from being, from cheating. This is the annoying thing. Now I'll have to translate the move. Hang on. It's a little bit annoying, but once you get used to it, it'll be fine. The point is that ultimately we will be in a position where, yeah, like what does that fucking 3 seconds even do? It just prevents, like if you're about to flag at the end, it's gonna become relevant. But no, what was I saying? Like I can't even show it properly. You can't see the time. I don't know how big this should really be or how it really looks, because this is the best way I can see it is on OBS. So annoying. How am I supposed to? I guess the time just isn't even a factor, so you just shouldn't even worry about it because, okay, you can do it like that. Okay, this is gonna take some getting used to for sure, but it is cool. Yeah, you get to see it there. That should be about as good as you need. So what it's going to do is going to allow you to basically, fuck. I thought that would keep it like the same distance. Is that showing the whole board? It's hard for me to tell because I have to look at it in this little tiny screen on OBS because I can't really tell otherwise. As long as you can see the board here in both senses, you'll be fine with it. I think that's about the right proportion. Yeah, why would you want to speedrun a game that you're playing for the first time, right? You would want to take your time, and then once you beat it, then you can challenge yourself. So that's what I always refer to anyway. So he made a simple pawn move here. We got to also make a point to try to learn notation in doing this. So now we'll go here. Just because we do have a little extra time too doesn't mean that I should be this incredibly slow with it. But okay, now we're in the rhythm of it. So now we could do this little exchange, but I guess he knows my style of play that I wouldn't do it because I'm simply kind of too passive that way. So fucking annoying that I have to reach so far. Like, this is pretty uncomfortable. Hang on. This is the real hard mode disadvantage of doing it. Like, obviously my setup is just scuffed. It wouldn't be, you could just have it in front of you, but I don't see how you can really do that in this position. So you move the knight, then I get to, again, I will probably move my knight because I would rather, but no, that's the one thing too. You're not allowed to move stuff around in variations, otherwise it's cheating. So like, this is perfectly acceptable to do, but the only thing I'm allowed to touch, I might point and do stuff like that. Like, instead of doing arrows, I can just point at the piece. But I'm not allowed to move stuff hypothetically, like, oh, let me see what this would look like, right? Then it's considered cheating. If I just make the move, which I can't exactly do very well, but if I make the move, then it's okay because then you're in a position where, you know, that's just a legal thing. You don't want it to aid your calculation to the extent that you can, you know, see what a hypothetical position would look like. So in that sense, I have to be very vigilant about doing that. Just like, don't move anything that you're not actually moving. So we go here, we transpose his move there. And this will also help you maybe comprehend what they're doing a little more. Like, you're not going to just make a mistake like, oh, I'm going to blunder my queen, because you can see you're like role playing as them. Like, oh, I made the move to attack the queen in the first place. So you might be a little more aware of that. How did I even win that first game against him? I thought it would have been like a draw or whatever. Or on the other account, I probably have a much worse record, but let's see what we can do here. I don't know if he's saying stuff in chat, but it's so annoying to do this. This looks fine. Maybe if you crop the window, don't be passive. 4 knights is annoying. No, 1 knight is annoying. 4 is just an absolute nightmare. Haha. Okay, is it gonna fit here? Whatever, this is good enough. Like, I can't get it better than this. But no, let me think here. You know, the time is a little bit weird because you get to this is like a scuff setup that you kind of just do on a whim, and then it's like you'll just deal with it. You know what's annoying though is I can't see the time either, so I don't even know what it is. Like, I'll have to keep check. This is so irritating. Will it stay at least in the same position if I do that? Okay, well, it's kind of a position where you're like, you know, you just do it. My webcam's sitting on a fucking box. I'm using a paper board, plastic pieces. Like, it's totally completely scuffed. And I'm sitting at like a weird angle. But this is the kind of thing like how I came back to streaming. Like, I just did it on a whim using my old Blue Yeti mic, which ironically I'm using now again, but I was using a better one for a while. But the point is, like, you just do it and then you figure it out later and you slowly iterate and you improve stuff and you get a better monitor, you get a better whatever, better things to help it, capture card. It's the same thing here. Like, I could always get a better board, I could always improve this thing if I really, like, as I start to take chess seriously or whatever. But you would not be in a position where, you know what I mean? Like, you should just try it if you want to do it, and then you can always iterate and improve it later. Instead of like, oh, I'm going to wait till it's absolutely perfect, and then you never end up doing it. What else is scuffed about it? Like the seating position, the board itself, the webcam itself is maybe not the greatest. This is what you get though with the whole streaming culture. Alex Botes did this. Alex Botes destroyed chess. Just look at what you're fucking witnessing. You're witnessing a clown like me who should be embarrassed to even play chess, playing at a fucking 1600 inflated level on a website, using a fucking paper plastic board with plastic pieces, and they're broadcasting it to the world. This is what you're doing because this is a culture that we've created. Meritocracy is dead. Chess is dead. So now he brings the bishop. I could just castle. Should be fine. The only potential concern I have with that scenario is I have to make sure I keep up with making his moves, though. Right? Because even though you could say, "Oh, well, you must be the change you wish to see in the world," so why wouldn't you just do that yourself? This is almost good psychologically that you would disassociate with the time, but it's also bad because then you're going to flag like the clown that I am. You might say, oh, why would I even do it then if I'm criticizing it? But it's like I do it to try to change that standard. Like, it should be a higher measure that you go up to. So if I become a grandmaster by doing this, then I would show this is what it takes and anybody could do it. Unless if your priority is on something else, which again, if you're that successful and you make that much money from it, even if you want to say it's always from your content creation and it's from your own, you know, charisma, personality, things like that, fine, fair enough. But still, you owe it back to the game to say, okay, now I want to try to reach my potential, because you see how hard people work. Imagine that 2,000 FIDE player who's a nobody and nobody knows them and they're just a random person working hard, or all these grandmasters, like, they weren't doing it necessarily for the money because you don't even make that much money from it. But now you're in a position where it's like, you know, look at the passion and the effort they put in. Imagine making millions of dollars from it that they never might make in their whole lives. Even if it's from some other application of it, you wouldn't put in the effort to put back and actually try to see what your potential is and try to actually improve. That's the whole disgrace of it. That you can say, oh, it's a fluke, it's not your fault that you succeed because of that, people like you for other reasons, personality. But then once you're in that position, your character will show. Like, what do you do? What do you try to give back to the game? What level of passion do you actually have for it? Or is it just a prop for you? Like, once you've already succeeded to that level, now what do you do with that success? And if all you do is put back to try to, oh, I want to try to make better content and make even more money and just exploit the game even more, like it's just a prop for you, that's the disgrace of it all. Right? With that same great power comes great responsibility. So let's see what we do here. We're basically out of the opening. We get to, I'm going to keep being paranoid and double check the time. 17 minutes left. He's gonna actually fucking flag me and cheese me. See, even here, I don't appreciate the increment because I don't see what good it really does. So there's a few moves you could think about. I'll just do this. I'm not really explaining my moves too much. Whatever. Let's just enjoy the experience now. And this great return to classical, which is my true meant to be format. So what that does is you're basically trying to stop the pin on the knight. And so at that point, you're trying to basically also go to a whatever that is, a2, so that you can stop the knight from eating up the bishop on c4. And then you're also trying to raise the pawn onto d3 so that you can cover that pawn on e4 so that you don't have to worry about it in case you move the knight on c3 somewhere else. Then that'll be covered anyway without it needing to be tied down there. So those are the three core considerations here. I just do that because I'm very afraid of the pin, because pins bother me a lot. Right? It doesn't necessarily mean it's the best move, but there's always this hypothetical weird thing. You know how weird it is though, saying that like, oh, I can't show you, like, oh, you're supposed to like move this pawn up, right, and try to attack his bishop if he pins it down, which I hate doing that move. Like, I can't make that move here, but I can use a bunch of whole arrows on the fucking website, which is kind of like cheating in that same way. So it's weird that they would even say that. Sometimes he can be a bit of a troll, but I mean, I don't use that as an excuse, you know, whatever. That's not an excuse for him. You can just fucking, if I win, I win. But no, using the arrows is totally not allowed in real life. You couldn't like draw on the actual chessboard, so I always question that. So now see, you have to do that first, otherwise he'll just mirror back, right? Like, I would attack him with the knight on a4, right, his bishop, as if to try to take it, which I can't even do because he could still go back to like e7 or whatever it is, right? Yeah, but once you move the pawn to d6, then you can trap it in there, right? So he's going to get taken no matter where he goes on that diagonal. But then if I try to do that, then he'll do the same to me. So now I can escape with my bishop anytime I want. And so now it just becomes a question of that last pawn push. So now he's giving me exactly what I want, to the extent that I can trap him inside there, almost like he's maybe sniping me and doing it just to troll me. But now I should be able to guarantee the take on the bishop no matter what he does. And so therefore, if I do that, that's good, and my bishop can escape. The only problem is that one other pawn that I didn't account for. So now I'm going to trap my bishop in there, but it won't actually trap it. And in the amount of time that I do this, then he's going to be able to escape with the bishop and make a simple move like a6 here. I'm trying to really assert my knowledge of the notation that I don't really have, but let's see what we can do here. I mean, this is kind of a fun way to do it, I guess. It's at least maybe a little visually better. I'll have to look back and see how it really looks on screen, because I don't know. It seems like the proportion doesn't seem quite right. I could just make the whole screen that. I mean, honestly, like what good would it do? I don't know. It seems too like maybe thin, or like the pieces are too long. Okay, so this is fine because at least you're trading bishop for that. A lot of the time though, you're not meant to do that, because so now he would take with the pawn there and open the rook to attack the knight and that whole thing. That can sometimes backfire, right? You don't necessarily want that to happen. But the alternative is I'm not sure. So it's almost like I could just go back. Now, one move I guess I forgot to make on here is that. So we'll go here and then we'll let him take with that if he really wants. And so then I could take with either the knight, but I wouldn't want to take with the knight because I still want to trap that bishop in there with the knight. But again, he's totally in control of this position, to the extent that like that bishop doesn't have to be taken unless he really wants it to be, because he could move that pawn at any time to a6, assuming he wants to do that. So now the only rationale why I didn't take his bishop is because then he opens the pawn. Even though it double stacks the pawn, which normally you would think is good, we've seen this so many times where it still fucks us over, because it's opening the rook to attack. It's opening the rook to attack the f file very easily, in a way that I'm more so trying to do, like with my rook, if I open it that way. Now at this point, maybe I don't care as much, but I kind of care. And I feel like you're almost obligated to take no matter what you think. Right, this is a center pawn consideration. So now he went here, and then I went, oh my god. So whatever, we get what's happening. I don't have to really show it every step of the way. So he goes there. So now the position should match. It might end up actually being incorrect, but whatever. You have the other board to double check it. Now you don't take, but see, now the pawn's gone. So the whole pipe dream of trying to take the fucking stupid thing is not really going to happen, because it's like of trying to take that dark square bishop. This is where the tunnel vision aspect comes into play, because I mean, my trade happy tendency is going to be very, very strong here. So we'll take this, and then we can always take with the bishop as well, which I still don't even necessarily want to do. In fact, I still won't do it. This is where I'm going to try to show the initiative element of the game a little bit, because I don't want to let him get a free queen move in there. Let me try to match up the position again. I keep losing track of it. So the knight is gone. The knight is gone. The bishop is... I didn't take it. This one is here, and then this one is... See, I'm not looking for variations, actually. You're cheating and doing that. I mean, he's offering it up, but it's okay with me. I don't see why that would really be a big deal, except for maybe the fact that the knight is going there. I mean, there's no reason in that case not to take. So if we just make the move here, we take. He can take with the knight or the pawn. I imagine he'd take with the knight, but I'm not 100% sure. Either way, we should be able to guarantee a decent diagonal for ourselves there. We gotta keep paying attention to the clock, but it shouldn't really be a factor just yet. Yeah, this has got to be in the running for the most scuffed setup of all time, though, but it's fine for now. I kind of cropped out certain parts of the camera too, but it still looks a little bit awkward. So he'll take with something. I don't really care what it is. Everything is fine. I'm still playing like sort of too fast and too casually. Like, I'm not really thinking deeply enough about these things, because that's often the biggest crime in chess. You feel like you don't have to think too deeply about it, and so therefore you just don't. It's like, you feel like you can get away with too much stuff. You don't have to play at the absolute highest level, and so therefore, yeah, I couldn't really predict his move there. Sometimes I'm just being lazy and doing it like, oh, I'll just move ahead of time because I don't want to do it. So we'll go here. Now, I could be making a mistake by not taking his bishop there, because then I'll have a bishop and he won't. But now I'm trying to be all cute and commit to this idea of like, oh, haha, I'm not going to take for the rest of the game because I wanted him to take and not give him the initiative with the queen. So that's the only good reason not to trade. Either it hurts you, or you give them initiative to move a piece for free, or you do something else like, I don't know, you give them some sort of advantageous position otherwise. It's kind of hard to determine at this level, but let's see. The position isn't bad, and this kind of shows you like he's a better player. He's at least a couple hundred rating above, although not really. If you want to talk in classical, I'm not sure what he is. Let me actually see, which you might not be able to see, but whatever. In classical, he's actually lower than me in classical. He's only 150, 60 points higher in rapid, although he doesn't maybe focus on this site quite as much as the other one, chess.com, where he's probably about 1700 too. I don't know at what point the inflation stops to really be much of a factor, but so he hasn't made his move. The position is pretty much accurate. The sad part is I'm not even really looking at the board either. I'm still looking kind of at the screen. Right, so it's more so just for the cosmetic effect. So I can't even measure or anecdotally say like, oh, is it actually helping my calculation? I don't know if it really matters at all, but I should at least give it a try. It's easier to sort of trace it around the board with your eye a little bit, like where things would potentially move. Whereas on the screen, it's kind of a little bit more, I don't know, it's just like a little more narrow somehow. I mean, it couldn't hurt, like, if you're gonna measure somebody's level of play. But, like, everything here is so solid, so this shows you the drawish nature of the game. We're gonna draw somebody who's at least a little better than us because that's just how the game works. And I'm even turning down trades and doing that, which has become a bad habit of mine. Normally, I trade too much, and then that comes back to bite me. But in this case, where the last couple of games that I've lost on Rapid or whatever, I've been denying trades where I would normally take them, and there are instances where you are supposed to take them, like, that's what the engine's showing you after the game, but somehow I deny them, and then it ends up hurting me later on. So this is fine for now. Let's see what happens. Imagine using a webcam for this, though. But I mean, imagine using it to show your stupid face. Like, what does that have to do with anything? That's always the best way to expose cult of personality as an ideation, which of course everyone does it. But like, what does your stupid face have to do with anything ever? And the answer is it doesn't, but somehow, people fixate on that and it becomes like celebrity culture. It's like, why do people care what celebrities do? Because they're celebrities. Oh, and why are they a celebrity in the first place? Oh, because people care what they do. It's like this thing that feeds into itself. Sure, they did something in the first place to become famous, but once they are, it's like people want to hear what they do or think or whatever, right? They want to obsess over them just because they're in the public eye. And so it doesn't really, there doesn't have to be anything behind it at that point. So this was an unexpected surprise that we get to play him, but I do kind of want to do at least one rank game here then, and we will get the provisional boost. So it doesn't mean that I'll be playing mainly classical from now, but at least in these Tuesday sessions, maybe that's how I should do it. Because Tuesday I stream it, and then almost every other day I'll do like at least one game here and there if I have time, and I'll just record it. And so that I might do rapid more, because I won't have enough time in those sessions necessarily to do classical. And here, if I'm going to go through the trouble of doing the board every time, I don't mind doing it every Tuesday for this purpose. Then I could do it in such a way that I could only do classical here. But whatever. I mean, I'll leave it open-ended, but he's taking a long time, or my thing is just bugged out, maybe. But this is the whole fun of classical. You could go AFK, or you could go, whatever, use the bathroom, go for a jog, and you would barely even notice whether he's calculating or not. So he goes to there, and so that doesn't seem to make any meaningful difference. Let me try to look at this board a little bit, but I don't know if this is really doing me any favors at all. Like, what immediate threats do I see, or what do I even see him trying to do with that? Doesn't seem super clear to me. That's almost what I would normally do, is like I would put the pawn on F4 or whatever to try to open my rook to him. But since we denied him that, that's fine too. So now we are in a position where he can't move his light square bishop at all, but only as the pin occurs. And so what that does is it puts you in a position where, you could take any time you want, but I just somehow haven't wanted to. It's hard to say what that move really did. Maybe it prevented me from bringing the queen there to g4 and therefore attacking the knight and therefore double attacking with the bishop and that to try to take the pawn, but I can't say that's really that great of a move either. But no, I mean, we have this optimal bishop pair, perfect positioning. If I move the knight, if I move the queen, maybe the knight can take that pawn. I'm not really sure. It's really hard to say what we're even doing with this, but at least now it's within my control more whether I want to take the knight or not. So this is a very instructive moment. Like, if you were to study something, you should almost study this kind of position, because whatever's going to happen here is not going to be super clear to me, and I just don't know like what to even do about it. Like, he's going to he could push the pawn further, and if he does that, then I do always struggle with these kingside pawn pushes because, again, I'm so passive. If I push the pawn, nothing really bad happens. And so therefore, like how would you really stop it from coming in anymore would be the big question. I could push my own pawn like crazy, which would be too big of a commit. Like, then we're open from the dark square, but I control the dark square diagonal, and he can't deny it to me for the rest of the game. So I'm actually going to make kind of a brazen, stupid move that I probably shouldn't do. And so therefore we get to, if he takes, I take. The knight can't really do anything. The bishop can't really do anything. You can kind of like double check. Look at it on the one board, then look at it on the other board. and see if you maybe notice something on one that you wouldn't have noticed on the other. My mouse is blocking that. So again, that's not a very good move, but if he pushes it, I can take, and then these pawns are in all kinds of an awkward spot. If he takes the bishop, I'm not worried about it. If he takes the knight, I'm not worried about, or no, there is no fucking knight to take. But no, we've created at least an optimal bishop pair position, which is objectively better than whatever he's doing, which he might even have done on purpose just because he always likes to try to prove like, oh, the knight's good, but I won't give him any excuse like if he loses because of that. So now you get to basically try to open my rook that way. So again, that was the whole logic of not taking the bishop in two cases. We didn't want to give him the opening of the pawn to allow his rook to attack my king side, but we also didn't want to give him the free development of bringing the queen there. So see, he still hasn't moved the queen because I haven't taken that bishop. Even if he takes mine, then it'll take another extra move for him to initiate the queen. So even as much as I'm passive and defensive minded, and like to trade for that reason, I like to trade defensively just to remove the threats. It doesn't work as well here. You shouldn't do it because then you're giving him too much initiative with the queen. So even I can understand that, where yes, I like to trade. Yes, it usually serves me well, but there may be times where you don't do it. But it's hard to say that because I've just missed a couple opportunities where you are supposed to do that, right, in some of these recent games. So he finally does it. I don't think that really gives him anything too crazy, though, because, you know, nothing really seems to benefit him as a result of that. So he's got a shitty knight that I can take at any time. I have a bishop that's reasonably strong going towards the king. Dark square diagonal is pretty open because, again, there's only that one pawn to protect it. So unless that opens up something for his knight, I think we're in relatively good shape. Feels like a shame not to use this a little more for myself. I wish there was a way I could see it better on my own screen, like what we're watching, what you'd actually be seeing on the stream, even though it is sort of right next to me too. This is so weird. So now if you take the pawn, of course, I can't even take the bishop, so that's, or I mean the knight, because it's not like we take it for free, because obviously maybe I had a chance to maybe already do that somehow. I might have been able to win a pawn, or I might have even been able to win the knight, because if his bishop was blocking there, I could have took that first and then took, like, I could have took the pawn and then took the knight because his bishop would be blocking it. No need to use arrows when you can just use your finger, or when you can just cheat and do like a fucking what do you call it? Just move stuff around so you can calculate that way. Which again, when you think about it, that's all the calculating actually is simply the idea that you're able to basically see. This is where the defensive master comes in, though, because what you get to do is you basically get to, I could deny him the movement again, because then I'll say like, okay, but no, I can't, because I can't really do it because of the fact that if I take the pawn, or if I don't take, then he pushes the pawn, then I take, then he gets the passed pawn on like e4, right? So you almost have to take, but you almost don't want to take at the same time. So it's kind of hard to say, because what you get to do is you don't want to let him push, but if I take, I also can't do anything because I don't know. If I move the rook to the e file, nothing good happens because he could just take the pawn outright. So it almost feels like for once I have to take, but this is the one initiative thing that I didn't want to give to him, because I just don't want to let him keep pushing. Then that could turn into a pass pawn, and that could be bad. There could be even a reason why doing this isn't good for him, because now like the knight is going to be pinned to it, but unfortunately I can't really do too much about that either. But it might work out, I don't know. I'm doing it kind of delayed in that sense, but it's okay. what we get to do now is we basically get to go here, right? Potentially, but let me think about it. So now we pin it with the attack, so then he would have to cover that again. And so it doesn't really matter because it's like, look how hard it is to actually win something. You think you might be about to, and then it just doesn't happen. And then you'll have to cover it with the rook, which I'm at least comfortable with doing that, because like I'm looking at all the stupid knight moves, I'm looking at everything, and I just don't see what it is. So he's gonna cover with the rook, right? He's gonna cover the knight with the rook. We already know what his next move is. I could even already make it on my shitty little board here. We'll go like this. And then again, he's pinned, so he has to basically go rook to d6 or d5, I mean. This might be an overly ambitious kind of move, but it should be fairly reasonable, I guess. Now you almost might regret it. Should have been a rated game because I'll earn back some of the rating I lost unfairly to Simply in the same sort of context against a much higher rated viewer, but that is kind of the scenario. You might be able to take this pawn. Now, see, now that's like it's not that I didn't see that, it's just that I didn't think it wouldn't be covered for some stupid reason. So like this is what I don't like about these higher rated things even. It's like you're not really even playing at a higher level to be able to do that. Like anybody could do that, but even the act of doing it would still allow me to take the rook, even though I didn't really think of it like that. Right, so now if you take the rook, I take the rook. So he might have just escaped something worse there. But no, that was a totally bad moment for me because I didn't really think about that. That's where we are currently. It's very hard to even keep up with this. I guess we're still playing too fast, effectively. Let me double check my clock. 8 minutes versus 12 minutes. So this is taking it to another level, though, with not even seeing the clock. So then it doesn't even occur to you, which could fuck me over. I mean, I'm going to end up flagging because of it, but then you just kind of think as long as you want to think, which I'm even criticizing myself like, oh, I'm being too fast and I'm being too lazy and not really thinking to my max potential. But then even at the same time, I am pretty low on time still. So what you can do here is you can basically try to, I don't even know, like I could just move the thing. He could check again, let's say with the knight. But then even if he does that, it doesn't change the fact that you would have to first, you would have to still save your rook, right? Like nothing, he'd have to like give a check with the rook to make this better. So he should probably have just taken at that point. Like I'll even just gladly take, and he's gonna have some crazy thing he can do here. He puts it there, and then all I want to do is I want to take his rook and then thereby cover mine. So what he's going to do is he's going to go to like G3 check. Then I go there, then he goes behind. I don't really care, dude. Just do it. So he takes there, and then I can take the knight, which is a pretty good scenario. Or arguably, I wouldn't even want to take the fucking knight. But given the threat position and the fact that it's under attack, and that I'll probably lose it anyway. It should be okay to do that, I guess. Because, like, isn't he just at a loss of a piece? Oh, shit. This is a little bit of a confusing sequence there. Like, what is even the material thing? I can't even figure it out without looking at this. It's even now, but it won't be even because of the position of the rook. And of course, we're hanging mate would be the only biggest problem, because otherwise I could go queen to a1 and then everything is covered and everything is fine. But the reason why I can't do that is because of the simple fact that you can't do it because of the simple fact that you'd basically be able to, like, if you save the rook, you lose the bishop, and then you're not able. So it's almost like, that's unbelievable, though. See, that was at least a good threat, that he's exploiting the fact that the rook has been there in such a weird way the whole time. But you know why this is actually fine? Or no, like if I go there with the pawn, then it saves the rook, but you're also letting this happen, so this might be still acceptable to do, but I just don't like it. You're going to be -2, and then you can always try to take a pawn or something to make up for it. It's quite possible I didn't have to do that at all, but especially with this time situation, it could be difficult to figure out anything better. But he's going to potentially take the pawn there. I'm just going to take this one, I guess. That was at least like sort of an earned sequence where it feels like, oh wow, you know. Okay, now he could take a pawn off the back of that, I'm sure. Now there's like 2 hanging pawns that could happen here. So now you can take this one. I wouldn't trade. At least we made him work for it, like both in terms of time, and that's not like a simple ordinary sequence of moves, but I did miss a couple of things there, I guess. Even like the fact that I got forked. It's not that I don't see that the fork could potentially happen. I just for some reason thought I could still take it, right? Even though the rook's covering, I'm just not like processing it. Sometimes you just like you look at it for a second and you're like, oh, it's fine, and then you don't think to really look at it any further. You just kind of dismiss a lot of things that seem obvious. But he could take the pawn. He could also take the other pawn there. There's really nothing crazy that I'm doing. Like, he can just do whatever he wants now. So now we'll just go like here. Like at this point, I almost just stopped caring, but nothing's really gonna happen for me now. But yeah, that wasn't a bad position, and again, it took a while for him to really take advantage of it. Even if he was to take there, it wouldn't do anything right away. But then he could give a check on the back rank, and then that would do something. Yeah, I wouldn't point to like any one major thing I did wrong even. It's just that it was an awkward thing. So my reluctance to trade the bishop early fucked me over because then it left the rook on a2, whereas otherwise it wouldn't be on a2. But then that might have given him some other option to attack. But again, my willingness to not trade now has sort of done me in a little bit, where I'm almost getting too... I'm still passive, but I'm passive when it comes to trades now, and at least that's one thing I would be very aggressive about taking. Like, if he just takes on g2, well, he can't do it yet, but... How much time do we have left now? This is going to look very annoying with how much I'm having to keep doing that. But no, I assume he's actually trying, because... I hate that too. Like, you'll beat a higher rated player and you'll be like, oh, haha, I was just messing around. It's like, nobody told you to mess around. Or even like, oh, I gave you time odds. Like, a lot of people will give you sort of inadvertent time odds. Like, it could be a rated game and he's a 2000 rated player in Rapid, but he'll only use like 10 minutes of his time because he's underestimating me or whatever. But like, if you end up losing or drawing, then don't use that as an excuse. Like, you started with the same amount of time. Right? You can't do that in an over the board tournament. Like, oh, I lost with 40 minutes left and this guy had 1 minute. But like, if you lost, then what the fuck does it matter? Like, time management is part of the game. So, or like, yeah, I beat somebody and they were salty. Like, well, it was because of time and they gave me time odds. So they're like a 2000 plus player. And I'm like, at that point when I had first come back, and then I beat them one game finally. So it's like they only want to show off on their terms. Like they beat me 5 times in a row, and then the one time I beat them, it's like, oh well, it's because of time. It's like, no shit, it's because of time, but it's like, when they were winning, it was under the premise that like, oh, it's impressive because look, they're beating me with so little time. But now when I beat them the one time, it's like, oh, now time is an excuse. It was supposed to be a fair equalizing factor because you said like, well, giving you those time odds was supposed to be part of the premise that they're better than me, right? So it's only fun as long as you're winning. Wait, when did my bishop even end up there? It's not even the correct spot. I don't even know what I'm doing with my own pieces. So you could go here. And so basically then you could do whatever you want. You can't take with that. We're threatening the mate, which is kind of a weak thing. I mean, he's obviously winning, but let's see how he converts this position against a defensive ace like myself. And he had a chance to take a couple pawns there too, but he didn't do it. So this is okay. It didn't actually feel as long as what it is. Maybe because I'm not looking at the clock, or maybe because I'm distracted by the board. It's taking up some of my time and energy. I don't know. But yeah, I'm not too dissatisfied with how I played there. You probably should be able to beat like... Well, see, I got to 1700 here though, so that's even higher than what he is. So it makes it seem like I'm not as much of an underdog. And I really am not that big of an underdog here at all. Like he's better than me, but he's not that much better than me. He's just like maybe more fundamentally sound. Like he actually knows openings. Like imagine doing that. Now that doesn't scare me at all, but it could, because then he'll go to basically the other square. What's it called? He'll go to... I don't know. See, now I'm not even going to want to transpose the moves anymore because it's just going to get annoying. I don't know. I can't figure it out. Gonna give a check on the back rank. I don't really care. If I had gone to the back rank like A1, he could obviously have just checked and took. So it's kind of limited the number of spaces you actually have to go to here with respect to the whatever you want to call it. Okay, so this is fine. Some of these pawns I'm just not keeping up with doing though. Like when did that get there? He moves it there, and that's fine because you can easily just move this wherever you want. Or maybe not so freely. No, I mean, you still have plenty of mobility to go. Like, I shouldn't worry about that thing as much though now. You basically could just go here would be probably the best thing you can do. He's still not really doing anything though. Like, what is so threatening about this position anyway? You have to do all these gimmicks to try to keep yourself interested in chess. That's the psychological element, so you don't get burned out, kind of in the way that you would, you would feel like, or what you could do then is you could check on the back rank and then check on like G3, and that still wouldn't be made, but then you could check on the back rank with the rook, so maybe there's some sequence like that incoming. But the thing about it is the simple fact that, I don't know, it's a very open position, so the bishop is actually better than you might think. It's not better than the rook, but it would be far better than the knight. Let's see. So I could have saved my rook and given up the bishop, or I gave up the rook to save the bishop. So what would be worse? You would save the 5, and you'd be -3, whereas here I was still -2 because you get to keep the bishop instead of just losing the rook. Or wait, you would be -3 versus no, but -3 versus -5, but I got the knight back. I don't know, it's hard to say what's better there. Let me check a time again. This kind of is an analogy for the game of chess overall. Like, it's so much effort for fucking nothing. You go through all this in terms of even the setup, but also in terms of the game itself. Like, I don't even know if I have energy for another one after this. This is too much. One game of chess a day. Which again, this hurts with my schedule more. Like, I could play a classical game still every time, but by a classical game, I mean like one. So now there's nothing you can do, even if you do this, aside from trading, which would be fine with me too. You go there, I take, you take, I take, and then you can probably beat me pretty easily then, because even though I got the pawn out of it, you know what I mean? Like, the rook is going to be better here, so I don't know if it's worth it. Fucking stupid, man. Like, are you serious? Oh, wow. Chess is not a drawish game. Somebody better than you gets down to a fucking stale endgame like this, and you're trying to tell me. What the fuck, bro? Yeah, I'm so impressed that he ends up playing like me in the end. Now, that one pawn could be very valuable, but there's absolutely not dick all that you can do about it, so I'll just leave it. The problem is the other pawns become super vulnerable here too, which I can see that, but there's nothing I can do about it. So, fuck it, dude. This is going to be the problem, right? You can take that. Wow, I totally didn't see that, even though I just fucking said it 5 seconds ago. Like, I love this. It comes down to an attrition position. Like, you see exactly what's happening, but you can't do anything about it because it's just the raw number of moves or whatever. Like, you get to some unwinnable, any position that's normal you can overcome if you just think about it, and then any position that you can't overcome is like, oh, now it's too late. It's like one of these hard stuck moments. You just can't do anything. You could be Magnus Carlsen, and it's like that was a guaranteed sequence of moves, so like, who cares at this point? It's so stupid how that works. So now this you actually shouldn't be able to save almost, or you still could, but he's covering there. Wait, why is he doing it like this? I mean, he's still gonna win somehow, but I don't fucking know how. Even if he decides to... That's covered. See, there's gonna be some problem with that still, I can bet. I don't know, I have no idea, and I can't keep up with doing the board either. So if he tries to take this pawn, I'll take this pawn, and again, neither of us are really going to... Well, see, my win condition is going to be harder, because if we trade off all the pawns, he would still win, like, by timeout considerations, because, you know, it feels like I'm cheating, because I'm looking at a position that's not actually there, but it still is, because even this is fine, because, like, if he take... Oh, but it's giving him a pass pawn is the problem, so I could have just thrown the game there. Right, there's no reason why I should have done that, but then I guess it's giving me a pass pawn too, but it's also limiting my movement a lot. That was not a very good move, though. But then again, I don't know what's happening, honestly. It all comes down to these dinky pawns, and like, if you can't see the drawish nature of chess from this game, regardless of outcome, then just like, whatever, dude, you'll never see it. It doesn't even matter how the game ends. Like, look how stale and stupid this game is. This guy's supposed to be better than me, by the way, and he might win, but like, look at how stupid it is. This is not how a game is supposed to go. Like, it's too dry of a position. The only way it could be more even, I guess, is if I had a rook instead of a bishop, which could have easily happened too. But like, it just doesn't feel somehow satisfying. Whatever happens here is like so stale to me. Now this is problematic because of this stupid ass thing. Like, he can obviously, he'll just cover there and then I can't take it. But like, why does it even matter? I don't know. Because it's like, you got to at least cover your pawn. I have no idea what's happening. Let's let him show how this position actually plays out, though. Like, he'll go behind it on b8, then if he pushes it, then I can't do anything. He's gonna... Like, let's just try to flag him, which again gives me more reason not to worry about the stupid board. You can give a useless check just because that's my specialty. He's going to move this closer to the thing, or actually he doesn't. Or he's going to somehow mate me with just this, which is pretty impressive if he could do that. Like, he gives a check there, but it should be that the bishop somehow disrupts it. You would think you could just cover like the 6th row and then you push the pawn and then I have to move away, and that it could create a problem for me because somehow, you know, I'll either be covering the pawn but not the bishop, or the bishop but not the pawn, or something like that. But maybe it's not that big of a deal. Or like you bring the king over to attack it so you can double attack it, but you wouldn't even do that because then you give up the rook for the bishop, which even with that one pawn might not be worth it to do. He's calculating some crazy mate endgame sequence with this, but like, shouldn't you know this by heart because you're a 1700 rapid player? So that means you're literally a god who studies opening theory all day, every day of your life. Now you could just do some cheeky harasses on there, which I don't even really want to do. He's attacking the bishop itself, which doesn't even make a whole lot of sense. You could literally go here because he can't even take. Or he can't even check. Like, go ahead, check. You're not going to mate me. That's not a queen. The rook wants to role play as a queen. Like, this would be a mate in that position, but it's just not. Right? Like, what does it matter? What? Or wait, was that even preventable somehow? It must have been, because like I said, that's such a stale sort of position. Like, imagine thinking that that's a good, satisfying game. This is why chess itself is not satisfying. Like, there's nothing about that. Like, if I won that same way, it's like, okay, so what? The guy's just not paying attention. Your bishop was annoying. That whole game was annoying. Like, look how he gets to this point. And you're trying to tell me that shouldn't be a draw? That's just like depressing. We just wasted an hour to like really learn nothing. I guess he was winning by a considerable amount, but it just didn't feel like it. Like that whole sequence with whatever he did to win the rook. So I basically should have just traded for the bishop earlier. It's so irritating how some of these games go. Yeah, see, the one time I choose not to trade, it fucks me over later. And that's exactly what it did, because I didn't have a cover for this. That was apparently a blunder, which it really didn't feel like a blunder. Why does it feel like the engine's trading more is like more trade happy? I thought about doing that too, but what would it change? Like, why couldn't you just I don't know, I felt like it would be the same thing if you did that. So I am losing here, but again, it barely felt like it. Really trying hard to win with the rook. Yeah, it wasn't that hard though at the end because I just kind of gave it to you, but let's see what I could have done maybe there anyway. But yeah, like I arguably lost at that point, but see, this evaluation is disingenuous because even a player as good as him, it didn't feel like that. Like nothing was really crazy happening. It wasn't going to be that simple for him to win. Like what happened at that point that he could mate like that? There is no mating sequence. That's mate in 1, so I just didn't have to do that. Just move the rook or move the bishop anywhere. It's still not going to be mate though in most of these cases. You go here, you go there, you go there, you go there. Like it's not that simple at all. Although I can't really explain exactly what the thing is doing with the bishop. It doesn't seem to have anything to do with the position. Why couldn't you just go like this and then try to like, I don't know. You basically would be trying to push the pawn with the cover of the fucking thing. Like, why can't you just do that? It's not that difficult. Like, you should easily be able to fucking do this. No, I'm not going to do what it's telling me. There's something very simple that you can do here. Like, go here. right? Yeah, now you're fucked. Now you're fucked because you can't do that. You can't cover on the light square, so you just lost the pawn. Like, why is that so hard for you to understand? Now you should win because you have to sack the bishop for the pawn. Like, isn't that the most obvious intuitive sequence? But no, of course, chess is not an intuitive game at all, so just do some other dumb shit instead. Like, you would have to sack the thing for it now no matter what you do. So all you're trying to do is like put the cover on there on the pawn so then you can move it. Okay, whatever. That was at least mildly irritating. Yeah, that sequence at least earlier in the game was at least interesting to, or you can't even see this because it's the whole scuff setup, but whatever. It's like, I guess I can always get rid of that sometimes if I don't want to show it. Maybe we should do like one classical game actually rated, but again, that at least shows you I can play at a moderate level. It's just kind of depressing. That game really pissed me off because it's just like so, like, I guess he deserves to win it, but I mean, even in the end game, it's, you know what it is? It's almost like you want it to be over. Like, how much of a stale like, I didn't want to draw. I'm happy that he won because I would rather get that than another fucking stale draw. But at some point, you cannot be a chess player and not embrace draws because that's what you have to literally live on. And it's true too. Like, all the best players, they'll escape with so many draws in positions that they might have lost, or they're not gonna, like, if you could choose between, oh, I might lose this position and I could just get a draw, why wouldn't you just get a draw? It's just stupid. Yeah, like, I showed a more intuitive way to do it is just to push the pawn and force it to go to a light square. The bishop can't cover it because you're providing a cover for that row. Like, it was a pretty simple thing to do that way. But he was trying to do it like the hard way, I guess, just by mating. So towards the end of that, I couldn't keep up with the position on the board. And actually, it makes it kind of fucked up too because I don't know who I'm going to be playing as, so... But I guess white is always just here anyway. Like, I'll just do it where white is closer to me, but this just seems like a lot of effort for really no good reason, but I'll still do it for now. You had one blunder, that's pretty good, I guess. It's just, see, you might think even, oh, classical ruins the game that way, but it actually exposes the game's true nature, right? Like, in a classical game, people are going to make far less mistakes, and so you're basically going to get a drawish position even more than you normally would. So then that shows you the only reason why people ever lose the game of chess is because of time, either literally because of time, they flag, or in another sense, like they basically just lose to the extent of, sort of choking under time pressure and worrying about it, which is one of my big weaknesses. I'm always thinking about time, even if it's not even that low. It just affects my whole approach and my style of play. Yeah, it got low on the clock and it got low in terms of it got to the end game. So we went the distance. That was the Apollo Creed fight from Rocky 1. Like, he wins by split decision, but like, was it really that satisfying? And then you're going to have people questioning that victory for years to come, the way that bothered Apollo so much, where he throws the hate mail at his wife because he's like, are you serious that I don't care about this? Like, that's the whole motivating factor of why I became a great fighter in the first place. So let's go ahead. We'll do one here. I hope that I'm white. I should have bored out if I'm not, because somehow... Yeah, I just kind of gave up in the most interesting position. I stopped moving the pieces on the board because I couldn't even... You can't even find a match because... It's just... And the ratings can be a little bit bonkers with it too. Or you know what I should almost do? I should have the display capture above the video capture, so if I ever maximize this, you can see the window. Right? That would actually make more sense. So when it's like this, it won't matter. Because, whatever. Okay, we are white, so I'll make my tried and true move here. I don't care who I'm going against. it is a 1500 provisional player who's 800 in rapid. But at this stage, I'll take any victory I can get. And the fact that you see me streaming could scare you a little bit, like, oh, I must be some expert player. I must be a Smurf. But no, let me actually try this for a second. Because, like, what that would do is it would allow you to, it would allow you to basically, holy shit, let me see. It would allow you to basically do it like this. So now, oh no, it wouldn't, because, fuck off. Because it shows the rest of the screen too. I thought if it just showed that part, it would be fine. Okay, so we'll leave that there. It doesn't really matter. So the only things you're not worried about are like time and you're not worried about time, or at least you can't see time and you can't see rating, but we just look at it once at the beginning and that's fine. And he brings the bishop there, which I don't think is a particularly optimal move. Let me try to think. Just do a basic opening, should be fine. I don't see why it would be any different. There may be some times where you want to move the bishop in a different way than what I'm doing. Like, maybe this bishop isn't meant to go there this game. Like, based on this exact position, oh, you're meant to go the other way. You're meant to go to, like, G2 or something, but he's giving me the diagonal there, so that's not very difficult to accomplish. And so now you want to stop the pin, but you don't have to worry about the pin to the extent that you're able to basically, like, he really doesn't seem like he knows what he's doing, but that's okay. I'm not going to get overconfident. I want to open the darks for bishop, and the reason why is because maybe I could do the fried liver thing here. If there ever was a time you could do it, this might be the one. So getting a fried liver at 1600 plus, and sadly, this might still not give me that much rating because he's 1500, but it might actually because he's also... But no, now he can just still stop it. That's the problem. Because, you know what you could do is you could move the bishop here to... You could move the bishop here to pin it down, and if you pin it down, then if he raises the pawn, then he can't castle because the bishop's going to have that diagonal for now. So maybe I will actually do that. So his response might be predictable, but it at least opens a very strong diagonal completely to us where there's not much he can really do about it. And then the question is whether I go backwards or whether I go the way I just was. So would I go back to like D2 or would I go to like H4? But H4 seems kind of futile because then he could just raise the pawn altogether. He chooses not to do that at all. And this might be a good chance to develop the knight, actually. I'm not really taking this as seriously as I probably should, but it's okay. We'll put the knight there. If he takes it, we double stack, but that's not too big of a deal. I'm playing this basically like it is rapid, and this is the number one thing you don't do, especially at the beginning, right? Use your time as much as possible earlier on, and then once it gets to the later stage of the game, then, you know, you're not going to have that luxury, or you wouldn't be in as bad of a position as what you are if that was the case. So he probably should take this, and the reason why is because of the simple fact that not only would it double stack the pawns, but now my pawn structure isn't even going to make sense because, like, how would I use the light square bishop if you have the... You would have like C2 and C4 as the pawns if you wanted to raise it from C3, right, to connect them. I don't even understand that myself, but you can almost do like this and just kind of try to reorient to the other side. But this is where the pawns just kind of fuck up, where I don't even know where they're trying to go. But I think the openness of the king there, given that structure, is at least a good element of this. Right, because now sometimes if the knight's there, like he hasn't developed it yet, you could just take and therefore force the rook to take and therefore negate the castle. So that element would be good too, right? I always like that. So the bishop would capture on g8 on the knight. That's the one instance where trading for the knight could actually be good. So now he wouldn't take in such a way that would hurt the pawns too much. So this might actually be good. I don't know how much this really matters to people or how much it would even help you, but whatever. It's worth doing, I guess. So if he takes, it's fine. If he doesn't take, it's fine. Now we might be able to get actually the optimal pawn structure here a little bit. So you get to move the bishop back, move the pawn here. I'm making my moves like before on there, which arguably that could be considered cheating too. Everything is cheating. Using arrows is cheating. Using a real board is cheating. Using anything besides your brain is cheating. So now it's not even really trapped, but it's at least awkward for him. You go back to like d6 and then what the fuck? He's acting like it basically is trapped. We'll go ahead, do all this. We lose the castle. We take with the king. His development was so disastrous. This is the kind of opponent I actually want. But then this will lower my level of play more because I might not even be playing well, but I'm just getting away with it because he's so bad, and then I'll still fuck it up because I get overconfident or something. So that should be relatively okay. Yeah, we got to use like a custom set, like a Jurassic Park piece set. This is peak chess content. I swear I remember having one of those actually as a kid, but I don't think I ever even really used it. I always did like dinosaurs or like dinosaur related movies and stuff, but we could go back and try to reorient it to there. That's the only thing I can think of. So you go ahead, you move the bishop back. Doesn't seem like the greatest move. And we should almost move the rook out, or we should move it to like f1 and then put the king on g1, sort of behind it. The one thing I'm also not doing is listening to music, which I guess shouldn't have any impact on anything here, but just we're trying to replicate a tournament environment, or, you know, we're trying to basically not get distracted by too many things here. The other alternative, I guess, is I could just do it in full screen with just that, but that seems kind of silly too. Because you want to see at least, oh wow, it's a real game that authentically actually matters on an inflated website that nobody cares about. Now, when did that even happen? When was this pawn raised to here that he could even do that? He's pinning it down in a very unusual spot that I would have never expected to happen. So this is what can sometimes happen, is just the fact that the position is so unusual that something bad could happen that you would never predict because you're not used to seeing it. Not that I'm an expert on anything anyway, but so now you don't really even want to do this, and it's covered by the king, so you don't even really have to worry about it for now because his other pieces are just so unavailable to him here. You could almost put the bishop on like f6 here, or sorry, e6 to be able to, that's like a very alpha bishop position, but it's just not covered is the problem. So now you get to move the queen. And if you move the queen, you should be in good shape. I'll just do a lazy move like this. I should always move first so it doesn't feel like, oh, I'm looking at what the position would look like before I do it so I can double check. But I'm never really not doing it when I do that. There's no takebacks. So now if you take the thing, it's fine. If you don't take the thing, it's fine. I want to move the rook out. So like f2 could be, or sorry, f1 could be a thing. Oh, man. I mean, I guess if you're gonna do this, you may as well make it worth your while, like a lifetime worth of chess that we're gonna try to catch up on, make up for lost time. You can never measure things in terms of like, oh, how much of you or how old are you? That's why age doesn't matter. It's like, how old are you in chess years? So I'm like at most like 3 years old, between like maybe 1 year worth of play as a kid, and then maybe over the course of a very long stretch of time, if that even counts now though, like I remember anything. And then I didn't play for a super long time, and then I played probably, not even a year's worth when I was streamed on my old channel, and then I played like maybe 2 years worth. And when I say that, even it's like, oh, it's like an hour a day maybe at most on average, but because then I'd only play like once a week or something, but I would still. The point is that, like, oh, you play an hour a day for like 2 years, but that's what you have to do if you want to be good at the game. So everybody who's plays chess would be doing that. He's going to try to do some crazy sack play, which I don't even understand what it could be. But this is okay for now. Let me see what I can do. You can just move the rook out, I guess. I'm not really seeing anything, but I mean, I'm not really looking either. I do get like really lazy in situations like this, like, oh, he's just worse, he's just gonna lose, so who cares? But this is how it can go awry. Like, of all the pressure that we're under, like, oh, if I lose like 2 games in a row, this could fuck over my whole account. But if I'm getting a 1500 provisional player playing his first game ever who's 800 in rapid, if I lose a game like this, then that shows you it's really a psychological thing. Again, one of the things I have in common with Ding Liren, that we're both chokers. I mean, you could say, oh, well, his level is so much higher, but that's also relative to his greatness. Like, he's one of the best players of all time, so, you have to take that for what it's worth, too. So given that very high standard, obviously, it's going to be that he is a choker. And yet he still won, which is hilarious. Like, it almost, like, rubbed off on the guy on Nepo. He thought it was the World Choking Championship. So now what we can do here is we can basically try to... I actually don't even know. Like, if he raises the pawn there, how do I even react to it? You would think moving the knight to h2 is good because that allows you to react. I better pay a little attention to the time too, but it's not really that big of a deal. What you can do here is you can... These kingside pawn pushes really do scare me a lot because something bad could happen. So he raises the pawn, and then if I take, he takes, I take, he takes. It doesn't really make too much sense to me. Like, I don't really want to allow him to take. Like, I almost feel more comfortable if I just double raise the pawn here on g4. Right, that actually makes more sense to me because it seems like it's very hard for him to come in, even if it seems like it leaves my king exposed. The sort of elevated pawn structure, it would allow the queen to still come in if he sacked that, but then I don't know how much good that's going to do him. Just by itself, the queen is not much of a threat. The knights are kind of clowning around, not really doing anything, so... So his development was bad. Basically, every aspect of his play was bad. I'm not even trying to be mean or anything, but it's just like... this is obviously a lower rated opponent, so that's fine. It's not like my rating is provisional, even though it technically is. It's actually lower than what it should be because, okay, now this pawn structure is actually fine because there's not much you can do. So now here you would lose the castle to whatever extent you might have had it anyway. So we're not really moving this in a very consistent way, but it's okay. All right, so everything is fine now. So you're just trying to basically see what we can do to break through this position, which I'm not really sure what we can even do. We could just move the bishop, get it off the back rank. Yeah, this is really like rapid level play where I'm not really putting forth a great amount of thought, which is very unfortunate. Or like I have one good classical game in me each time, which is why I even set that rule. Like if I would play classical primarily at that point, right, for a stretch when I was trying to get from 16 to 17 or whatever. And I said, if I lose one game, then I'll just stop playing, or I'll just end the stream, or I'll play a different format. So it's like I only got one life. Every episode is like a permadeath classical thing. So I'll play as many as I want until I lose a single game, and then I'll just stop. So the worst I could do on a particular episode is lose one game, because then, it's not like you can go on a bad streak. It would have to be over the course of several episodes, which I think I was almost doing that with the 10-minute games too on like chess.com, but the queen can't really come in, so I'm not really too concerned about that. But I shouldn't be too complacent here either. He does have like an octopus knight quality position, but the reason why that doesn't bother me too much, or rather, see, what happens is the sacrifice here then becomes like, okay, you could put the knight on G or on E2 and then take it. But if you take it, then he gets to pass pawn, which generally doesn't bother me too much, but I mean, in the right hands, it could be scary. So you could arguably try to do this, right? At least sort of baiting the trade. But this is the value of at least recognizing what this is about. Like, if you put the knight there, that's actually very good. F4, right? Is going to make me alt F4 out of the game. Haha. But no, the trading potential is of no value because, again, you're giving him a pass pawn, which may or may not be good. But I mean, any pass pawn is a good pass pawn. So I'm not entirely sure about this position either, but that is a good thing. The bishop is attacking there on the dark square diagonal, leading ultimately to the thing, but it's not doing anything for now. He's attacking an uncovered pawn there, which I'm not really sure where I'm going with it either. So what should I do? You can't really do anything. We go ahead and move the queen there. We can potentially take a pawn and give a check. Other than that, everything is accounted for. His knight could come in, but it doesn't really scare me too much. Again, that octopus knight position is very good. Imagine if that was the difference in the game, or like that's what equalizes the game, is just his ability to get that f4. But again, it's not that we couldn't take it if it became too much of a problem for us. We got to do the Damon Gant roleplay where like I clap my hands in the gloves to celebrate a win or something, or to whatever, show my frustration. He always wears gloves and he always is laughing and clapping away. When I first saw him, I thought he was like a firefighter or something, or like a fire chief, just because his clothing is so colorful somehow. I don't know what that would have to do with it, but like the orange suit and everything. It's like based after Zeus, where he's like, his hair is like a lightning strike, and when he's having his breakdown, he obviously like catches on lightning, basically. Now he's got to worry about this cover, which he can easily do. And then at that point, we're just looking for the... I don't know, it's kind of a stale position, to be honest. I can force a queen trade right here, which is beautiful. And so I'd be satisfied with that position any day of the week. So I could almost guess what his next move is going to be. This is kind of a good patience test too. You see how impatient I am. I'm trivializing the use of the board because these moves are happening so fast. Like, who even cares? You know he's going to trade, and then you know what you're going to do next. Not because you're so good, but because you're just impatient, which is a bad combination. The same person who extols the virtues of classical is going to also be impatient as fuck and actually playing it, but not all the time. It's just like, you got to really go one extreme or the other. So like, you can't not take, because if you don't take, the alternative is you just lose the queen for free because it's not covered. So you have to fucking take. What are you doing, bro? Why is that even a resign, though? It's not like that move had any special meaning to it. Yeah, let's analyze this very clearly high-level game. Oh, I did get a decent amount for that, but that's only fair because I had to lose that much. I got 16, by the way, since you can't see anything. Or like I said, I should just turn this off then when I'm not using it. It's kind of hard to focus on the web browser because even putting the display capture above this doesn't solve the problem, right? Because it's like, whatever, it'll show the rest of the desktop or something dumb. I don't think this was played at a particularly high level, but it's okay with me. We get back to 1650 a little bit. So again, I won't even pick on the guy too much. Like obviously it's a mismatch of 100 plus rating. Actually, it's like 200 rating at least, even if he is legitimately 1500, because I was actually 1700, legit, unprovisional. So it makes you question now, like what rank am I? What percentile am I? Because it was pretty good. Because nobody really plays classical in the first place, but you kind of blundered right from the beginning. And again, I didn't play very well either. So that's what it can kind of lull you into a false sense of security there. I almost want to do one more, but kind of pushing my luck. I don't know if I have the energy for this, or it's just going to go on for too fucking long. You know what I might do is I might just play a rapid, but see, then I can't use this gimmick thing. I could just play a rapid game, but no, I think I'll do another one just to see. But then I'm going to do it like in a rush. That's my problem. Why is that even a blunder? Like, I don't get it. Probably just because I had something better to take advantage of. You're supposed to go like that, but I don't really see why that's so good. He takes... What the fuck is that? He takes and then you just don't do anything even. You're doing it to try to get a center pawn out of it, I guess. What the heck is going on? Like, at least that I can acknowledge is very confusing. Even if... So this is all about the structure of the center pawns and trying to bring stuff into that. But we're so confident based on that first game that clearly I want another shot at it. Right, and we didn't even use that entirely effectively, but let me maybe try it again. Yeah, this is like at least a fun gimmick that we can mess around with and try something else with it, I suppose. Let me see here. It honestly just seems like a lot of effort for no reason, though, unless these moves really go on for a long time, which most of them are not doing that. But this is to help me get used to maybe the over the board etiquette because I never play over the board and I have it in like whatever since I was actually a kid, probably. Yeah, this is gonna be ASMR fucking chess playing. Like there's all these kind of videos on YouTube like that you actually see where somebody's like, I don't know. ASMR is a very broad scope thing. It's almost as broad as fetishes, and sometimes that those two things overlap. But it's like anything can be ASMR. Like somebody just itching their nose, or chewing gum, or reading a book. Like literally any random thing you can imagine, there'll be ASMR for it. Just like Rule 34 or whatever. Anything you can imagine, there'll be some sort of a fantasy or something associated with it. So do I really dare to do this? Because I really don't even want to, but it feels like an anticlimactic session if I don't. Let me be white again just for the convenience of doing this shit. Because otherwise I'd have to do it from like the other angle. You know what, dude? I don't know. Because I can't do it in a rapid game. I could barely do it even there. Fine, we'll do one just for the sake of it. Just for the culture. It's just, again, it shows like no respect for time. But I guess if you had respect for time, you wouldn't be playing chess in the first place, huh? So now he's going with the king, pawn, white. And then I'm going to match him back with that. You go king, pawn versus king, pawn. Perfectly fine. Let's go ahead and take a peek at his rating. He's 1700. He's 1612 in rapid, 17. Wait, why does it show... Oh, no, never mind. 1707. and it's not provisional, so he goes ahead and makes a white move here, brings the white bishop to c4, I think. What an explosive move. And then we get to do the same thing, basically mirror back his black, or maybe I shouldn't. No, but that's okay, I think. We mirror back his black. I'm moving sometimes first there, but it doesn't matter because whenever I move, I just commit to the move. So it's not like I'm second guessing it. As soon as I make it there, I'm already making it just overall. So now this is unfortunate because I'd like to develop the knight instead. Right, and so the problem is that you basically have to worry about... You have to worry about the fact that you want to basically cover that pawn. So I will do it. Dimensions of the board are all messed up even more than normal. Now he does an awkward kind of pawn move. So that allows you to basically double push the other pawn, I guess. So that's going to be the queen side pawn. That is not there. It's actually here. Now, what does that potentially open up for me is the big question. And the answer is nothing really. It's not even like you can trap it in for a trade with the knight. This move at least requires a certain amount of thought. So now I should probably just ignore what he's doing. And see, then he can double push. But if he double pushes, I could just take. So I have to accept that fact. So let's just go for this. And he can't pin it down or do anything like that. That might be a bit of a flippant move that's made a little bit too early. That's all part of his plan, but it's not. Okay, now at least see, now you could theoretically, the knight wants to munch on the bishop, but you still have to cover this stupid thing, and you have to worry about the pin. So there is something to be concerned with there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise this to stop the pin from happening. And whatever else is happening is also okay with me for now. So he goes ahead, he castles. Now at this stage, you're trying to see what we can do. I could castle myself. I almost don't even want to yet, and it almost shouldn't matter, but something could happen that I won't be able to take back. As far as like he'll fuck up my ability to castle, so maybe you should just do it. The one thing I'm concerned about is that one pawn, basically. Or rather, I want to raise a3 so the bishop has somewhere to go. I want to finish my development. I'm going to try to pin him down, actually, if I can. Before I even bother to castle. Look at this. Now you're almost going to trap the bishop in there, though, to the extent that you can. Not really yet, but you got to worry about it because it doesn't have anywhere to go. So I could pin his knight down, but he's more concerned with my bishop. Now he double pushes the pawn here. And then you're going to... Wait, but that doesn't even allow you to still attack the bishop even. Right, you would have done the other one if you wanted. Just go to a6. Or I mean a7. No, a6. But anyway, we can raise the pawn. We can just raise the pawn, give it somewhere to go. But yeah, what if I genuinely make the wrong move on there? Then I feel like... Okay, so now... It's going to be a little bit confusing because if he pushes the pawn, then the knight has to move. And then if he takes, I don't know. It's going to be confusing as hell anyway. We go all the way back with that, and that should be acceptable to me as well, even though it fucks up the thing. Because what happens is if I take with the pawn, if he had risen the pawn and I took, then he took, then he could do this. Then if I took, then he could take the rook for free. But since he's doing this now, he's almost bailing me out, and I almost just should take this, even if it does open the rook to this equation. So now what you're doing is you're going off the board and in no pawns land. So now you go ahead, you open the rook that way. So we're already predicting the sequence of moves because we know it's a sure thing to happen. Now at that point you get to just actually castle, because I don't see any reason really not to. Or rather, I should have maybe even done it sooner. So yes, his rook is open to me, but it also might not matter that much. Now you move the knight in front of the queen, finish your development. I have to basically do the same. I could pin down his stupid knight. I don't think I really want to take it though. Or rather, I should be trying to put it here on like b2, but I'm not entirely sure about that either. Because who wants to play a 2-knight endgame here? That sounds like a nightmare. I should almost just move my king, or I should almost try to trade my thing. I should try to trade. Okay, if I raise to b4, he would take, I would take, he would take, but obviously he would take the rook as well. I really don't know actually where to put the bishop. I'm having trouble with it. Like, I almost want to raise. Okay, so we'll go to b3, then put it on b2. And then it might come into play later, but it might not. Like, I don't really know. Let me actually move the king first. Or no, I don't even want to. I'll move this first. Just to give the bishop somewhere to go, I suppose. And then we can always raise the pawn in terms of the... we could raise the pawn to a4, and even if he takes, I still take. He's going to raise that pawn there. Now the queen is on this square, and then we get to raise the pawn. Even if he takes, I still take, so it's not a big deal. If he raises, I just simply move the knight, so I should be okay with that, honestly. I don't see the problem. I am kind of rushing it, though, unnecessarily. If you raise that, we should be okay with this position. Which one do I want to go to? I probably just have to go back. There's really no reason to put it on A1, I don't think, or I mean A2. Expert on notation, by the way. So now something could happen where the knight could be like an octopus knight or something strong. But for the time being, it's okay. So let me just go back here. Oh, look, I touch moved the wrong piece. I have to resign right there. You're going to bring the knight in a little bit, and it's well out of the reach of the queen. And this becomes actually very confusing, because even if I move the king, then that opens up that thing to a double attack. You can almost just raise a pawn here, like raise it to d4, because if you do that, then he takes, then I take. Like, you can easily hold that thing up there. That pawn against the bishop, because there's just too much going on there. But the thing with this is, if I move the knight, then he can take, like he can take with the bishop. And so it becomes dangerous, because it's like, I don't know why I feel like that's such a correct move, actually. But then it's going to fuck up my all beautiful V-shaped structure. Sometimes the aesthetics that actually do me in here a little bit. Like, oh, I want it to be so perfectly aesthetic structure, but then it might not be the best one. Like, you could easily raise to d4 if you're worried about this light square diagonal. The only problem that I have with that is the fact that he would take with the pawn, I would take with the knight, then he could take with the bishop, and then I take with the queen. But if he doesn't take, then it's a problem too. I don't know. The point would be to basically stop that diagonal from being effective, which I can't seem to do here. And so I don't really have to move my knight though, no matter what happens. So why would that be a problem? So why don't I move the king first, even though that kind of seems like a bad idea? Because that then allows me to not have to worry about that thing as much. So he knows something that I don't know because he's going to get a fork out of it. So that's okay with me, I guess. Good, outplayed, or actually it's not. It's not actually a fork though because it's going to be something worse, like with the queen maybe coming in. Of course. But what is it? Because there's nothing else that he can do. He doesn't have like an ancillary piece here. So you took the knight. And then you bring the queen in. So now it just becomes a question of what can he do with the knight? He's going to attack on there like the... He could attack from f4. His bishop, that's double attacking. That's not really a huge concern though because... Well, we'll see, but... The thing is you have to cover that stupid ass pawn too. You might have to move that first. So like move the king. The problem is then the act of his bishop taking that would be very devastating too. Because then that would open up all kinds of stuff that I can't do anything about. But I guess the most logical move here first, or you know what, this might be a very logical move. Because now you're going to cover both. You'll cover both the pawns so you could double take and the other pawn. And even if he tries to get all cheeky with the knight, I could also do that because I could also take that wherever it goes. He's bringing the rook in. Oh, he's being really aggressive now. This is getting annoying. So now, if you... The problem is this sort of claustrophobia that our pieces have found themselves in, where he's going to threaten to take that, but it's only single attacked. And now if I move my knight somewhere, which I kind of want to do, then you're in a position where... I don't know. I move my knight somewhere, and then at that point, what happens? I move my knight up to like g3, then he can just take, but it wouldn't matter. At least then I'm threatening to do a trade myself. As a dark square thing would be covered by the queen. I could again just raise the pawn to f4. If he takes, I take. If he takes, I still take. And so that's at least good to cut off the die. Why am I so obsessed with that one move? But it fucks up my pawns too much still. Like, I don't want to do that. I'm going to do something kind of stupid. And just kind of walk into a double attack here. But it's an acceptable double attack because you get to at least take back. So I don't see what the downside could be. Even if he checks, I could take with the bishop. He comes in with the pawn. And then I could just simply move the knight again. Because it's not like it's pinned down to it or anything. Alright, so we're not in a terrible spot. But I mean, I'm not too happy with it either. He kind of sacked the rook to make something happen there. Bro thinks he's Levy over here. And so now we have 17 minutes left. He's moving way too fucking fast, though. He's only used 3 minutes. I guess he's calculating on my turn, or that's why we have even a remote chance of doing this, because otherwise we'd be screwed. So what did this change? I guess it's the fact that I want to take his knight, but now it'll allow him to take my knight, which maybe at this point I just have to settle for that because I don't see what I can do about it. It's so weird how I'm playing this. Like, because if you leave it the way it is, then it's just like a claustrophobic position, right? That he's not actually going to be able to do anything at all. I'm actually going to ignore it for the time being. I'm going to ignore it, and then I'm able to move my queen up. And then we're going to try to maybe bait the queen trade. There shouldn't be anything crazy he can still do. I'm not really putting in the adequate amount of effort, though, still. He puts that there, and that is at least a good move because it allows him to allows him to bypass the trade, so I didn't necessarily think of that. But is it really that bad? Because he's still only single attacking everything. Or no, now he's double attacking that. I fucked up pretty big there, and it probably could lead to a mate. So, I mean, imagine that. Like, simple one move calculation is beyond you somehow. Whatever, dude. So, like, you would take their... It's just too claustrophobic, this fucking clusterfuck of pieces. Now, I could take the knight with the queen, or I could just... Okay, so, again, the only thing there is you were trying to do too much, and you move the queen and block the bishop, because otherwise the bishop was protecting you in that sense, that you could always take with that, and then you'd at least be better off than what you are now. So the way that it is now... I would move back and he would guarantee the take on the thing, on the pawn. And then if he guarantees the take on the pawn, I'm either in check or I'm about to get mated because, you know, nothing is going to block that one square. I find that kind of unbelievable, but I mean, my position wasn't that good. Look at the way I'm losing these games, though. Like, I can just be objective and say, like, when it's actually a good win or not. And most of these are not. But then again, most of my wins are not either. But at least in the 30-minute game, again, this is why I like it. Because you have less of an excuse than even you normally would. Because how is this even possible? Like, so he'll take with the queen. And then he'll mate me on G, whatever it is. Right, so there's really nothing I can do, or he can even automatically just take with the knight and check there too. But that might actually work out better for me because then... Not really though. Like, he sacked the rook and you might think, oh, it's validated by this outcome, but there was no reason whatsoever that it had to go this way. And the reason why is because... But see, now the queen's not even in there properly because... The queen's not even there, so maybe it's not even as bad as it could have been. If he took with the queen, then it would have been a mate already, right? Whereas now, at least you have... Yes, you can unleash and do all kind of cheeky things, but it's going to be the same fucking result. But maybe now I can at least run away a little bit, so maybe he missed a mate. Like, I'm still going to lose, but... Wait a second, how did that even happen, though? For now, he could have unleashed that as well. Like, look, dude, you play too fast, first of all. So now, you're trying to tell me I lose 27 for that, even though, I mean, I guess we're within reasonable rating of each other, but... 1956. So what am I? 49, 39, 29. How the fuck is that fair? I have no idea that we lose that much more than we got. I almost shouldn't even play this because if I happen to lose now, again, I'll have to delete my account. So I might just have to fucking stop playing classical altogether. No, I gained very little. I gained 16 and then I lose 27. So now I'm still at a minus 11 net. Fucking so stupid, man. There's no cushion that I get for anything in rapid either. Damn it, this is what the provisional thing can do. So now I'd have like maybe a 1-game cushion if I play like, you know, if I play in such a way I'm 1629, I could afford to lose like maybe one more game like that. But I shouldn't push my luck. Okay, see you tomorrow.